Hello, everyone. My name is Larry Sharp, and I'm one of the application engineers here at Chroma System Solutions. Today, we're going to be talking about bidirectional DC power supplies. We're going to cover many of their advantages as well as some of the various applications that they're most suited for. We're also going to be talking about the newest introduction, our 62000D family of bidirectional DC power supplies. So let's get started. So our 62000D family of products has multiple units ranging from 100 volts up to 1800 volts in four different voltage types. It also ranges from 6 kilowatts up to 18 kilowatts in the different model types. We can achieve currents all the way up to 540 amps with our 18 kilowatt 100 volt unit. Efficiency on this unit is greater than 90%, which is amazing. And based on that efficiency and the fact that it is regenerative as a load, we're able to condense this unit down into a 3U total height package at 18 kilowatts. We can parallel these up to 10 units to get you up to 180 kilowatts of total power, both as a load and as a source. Wide range input, 200 to 480 volts. It has a lot of additional features, auto sequencing. We also have software available that allows us to use this unit as a battery simulator. We'll get into that in a little more detail. Dynamically on this unit, voltage slew rates, 10 volts per millisecond on the 100 volt models, 60 volts per millisecond on the 600 volt models. We can also get up to 60 amps per millisecond on the 600 volt model in the 18 kilowatt version. High speed transient capability. That means how fast we can switch from being a source to being a load and in the reverse as well. And we can do that in less than 1.5 milliseconds with this product. Has a great touch screen front panel, makes it very easy to operate the unit, very minimal buttons on the front. Standard comes with a USB interface, Ethernet, LAN interface. Also has analog control. And with the analog control, we get down to a latency or the time it takes to control the unit from the analog input to the output in under 600 microseconds. So the unit, as I mentioned, is very compact. The product, they've done a great job with packaging and creating a nice operation of this unit from the front panel. 8 models that I mentioned, 100 volt, 600 volt, 1200 volt, 1800 volt, from 6 kilowatts to 18 kilowatts, currents ranging from 40 amps all the way up to 540 amps. So we have enough units to cover a wide variety of different applications for you. Another nice feature on this unit is the fact that this unit will operate at a wide range current with the higher voltage rating of this product and still be able to achieve full power as a load or as a source, even at the lower voltages. So here I've just noted a couple of them. Maximum power at 100 volts on this unit would require 180 amps on the 62 180D 100 volt unit. And it'll still achieve 18 kilowatt power down at 33 volts. Same with the 1800 volt unit down at 600 volts. You'll still achieve full 18 kilowatts with this unit. And we can even go to 40 amps on this one and get down to even a lower voltage on the 1800 volt unit and 18,000 watts. So it makes it more versatile in your operation. You're not limited by reduced power when you reduce the voltage. The unit also is, because of the efficiency of the unit, when compared to a typical conventional DC load, um, it's 90% or greater than 90% efficient. That means that there is only 10% or less power dissipated by the load compared to a conventional load, which is 100% dissipative. It means it dissipates the entire power internally, requires a large heat sink, and it generates a lot of heat. This unit, because of the efficiency, we can package it into a 3U package, 5.25-inch height. And with the conventional 15 kilowatt, the minimum is typically around a 13U or 22.75 inches. Again, the maximum power consumed and dissipated by the 62,000D family of products would be only less than 1/10% of the total power. So at this unit at 18 kilowatts, you're only going to dissipate 1.8 kilowatts of power versus a conventional load that's going to dissipate the full 18 kilowatts. And that also reduces the heat generated in your facility. So here with the new product, Chroma 62180D, this unit is only going to dissipate about 6 kilowatt BTU per hour versus a conventional load is going to be producing 61 kilowatt BTU hours. And if you do the math on this, just a very simple conversion here. If we look at a 40-hour work week with a 14 cent per kilowatt hour rate, typically here in California, we're looking at spending over $5,200 a year in power for the conventional DC loads. And that doesn't even include the cost of additional air conditioning and the tax and the load it would put on your air conditioning system. Versus 520 volt dollars would be the typical annual usage of our 62180D. The bidirectional source and load, if you're not familiar with how it works, it can be used as a load. It can be used as a source. The rating for both the load and the source for power are the same. So you can use it as an 18 kilowatt load or an 18 kilowatt source, and you have the entire current range for the load and for the source, as well as the entire voltage range too. So when you program this unit, we have the ability to set it just as a load or just as a source and use it independently. But we also have it to be used as a combined load source where it will detect whether it has a voltage applied externally. And when it does, it will automatically switch and become a load and will draw the current that you have set in your parameters. Also, as a source, it will operate continuously as a source whenever the voltage from your device under test is set lower than the voltage set on our 62180D. So when it's operating and the voltage is ramping up on your DC external device, your device under test, it would detect when it goes above the voltage setting of the 62,000D, and it would automatically switch and become a load at that point when it's operating in the combined source and load modes. The specs on this unit are very good. We'll go through that in more detail, but if you have any questions about the individual specs, let us know. Very good regulation, load line regulation. Measurements for voltage and current are very good. Low ripple programming response times are good on this unit, as well as the ability to do fast transient response when operating in constant voltage. Recovery time in less than 500 microseconds with a 50% to 100% or 100% to 50% load change. We're going to talk a little more also about the applications for this product. So applications for this product are in areas such as electric vehicle and plug-in hybrids, things such as the bidirectional onboard chargers and the onboard chargers, where we can do battery simulation to test those devices when they're operating in vehicle to grid or grid to vehicle mode. Also DC to DC converters, there's a ton of them in electric vehicles. And with those, we can do bidirectional DC to DC converters as well as standard DC to DC converters. We've also included in our software package the ability to do testing for LV123 and LV148. for the various electrical and electronic component testing for safety, as well as for functional testing of those devices. We've also incorporated motor control testing, where you can actually do the testing where you simulate the battery, and while you're doing both using it as a source for the DC input to your motor controller that's driving your electric motor, and also in the reverse, when you're braking and you're putting power back into the battery, we can also absorb that power coming back as if it's a charging battery. Power conversion or renewable energy systems, more and more have energy storage systems incorporated with them. We can do the transient response testing, battery charge discharge response time tests, and that's all incorporated into our software that's also an option available with this product. So let's talk about bidirectional onboard chargers. Bidirectional onboard chargers were developed for the purpose of being able to not only charge the batteries inside your electric vehicle, but also under certain conditions, use that battery power and put that battery power back out to the grid, or at least back out to the EVC and your EVSE, or your charging station for your electric vehicle. There's a lot of terms that you'll see, things like V to H, vehicle to home, V to L, vehicle to load, V to G, vehicle to grid, and then ESS, energy storage system. So when you think about a bidirectional onboard charger, it's basically taking that power from your charged batteries and being able to use that somewhere else. So you can use it in your home, vehicle to home, where it works as a backup power for your residents during a blackout or brownout conditions. It can also be used as a vehicle to load. As a portable generator, if you want to plug in your electric drill or your some kind of other device into your car while you're parked somewhere, it'll work as a portable generator. Vehicle to grid, of course, is the one that most people are talking about, which is the ability to put power back onto the grid during various peak power conditions, and to supplement the power whenever there's a drop or a brownout or some kind of condition where power can be put back either to your home or back to the grid. So essentially, it's using your car as an energy storage system. Typically, to test this, you would have to use a very large independent DC conventional load. You'd also need a separate DC source in order to power or to use it as a source when it's working bidirectionally. Now with our product being in this nice compact 3U package at 18 kilowatts, you can do all of that with one unit. It gives you the ability to act as a battery when the charger is charging it, and it will simulate that battery perfectly, and we'll go into that in a little more detail in another slide. It'll also be able to act as a source and put power back to the onboard charger that's bidirectional, so that power can then be put back out to the grid. This is kind of what that would look like in an actual setup for testing. On the right-hand side, you'll see our 62,000D bidirectional DC source. And on the left, you'll see our 61815 grid simulator. Both are 3U compact, great packages, similar appearance. Both have touch screens and are perfect for this application of testing that onboard charger and the bidirectional onboard charger as well. So if you have an application like this and you need more information on it, please reach out and talk to us. We'd love to tell you more about it and go into more detail. Also, our system integration group has the ability to add to this and create an entire automated test system for you. And they can even include things such as control pilot signal, communication from your onboard charger to your EVSE. And we can also have the communication simulation from the onboard charger to the battery management system as well. So if you need help in those areas, give us a call, reach out to us. We'd love to help you with that. So a little more about OBC testing. Even if it's not bidirectional, there's still a great advantage to using the 62,000Ds. When they're used strictly as a load, simulating a battery being charged when being charged from your onboard charger, it still is greater than 90% efficient versus a standard conventional load. It has that small 3U compact high density power packaging, and it reduces the heat in your air in your facility by 90% versus what you'd be producing with a conventional load. You also can use our grid simulator, which is a great high density power 3U package to give you 87% efficiency using it as an AC source simulating the grid. When you're doing EV motor controller or motor driver testing, they work bidirectionally. The way they work is when they're driving the motor, they take power from the battery, they absorb that power, put it back, take that power and put it to the motor so that you can drive your motor and your electric vehicle. When you're braking, that power is going to the motor is starting to generate power like an actual generator. And when it does that, it's going to put power back through the motor driver, and that motor driver is going to put power back to the battery to actually charge the battery. So our battery simulator and our 62,000D with our new software and general user interface is going to give you the ability to truly simulate an actual battery being charged and discharged, whether you're driving your motor controller or you're taking power from your motor controller. So another good application for this unit, we can give you a lot more detail on it. The other great thing about it is it can do that transition in 1.5 milliseconds as well to go from source to load or charging to discharging. Here's another view of that in a little more detail. If you're familiar with the USABC, the United States Advanced Battery Consortium, and the FUDS, the Federal Urban Driving Schedule, uh, you know a lot about how this braking and driving over time occurs and how that that energy can be fed either back to the battery or taken from the battery to drive the electric motor. So the 62,000D has all that capability, and at the same time, it's energy recycling. It's putting power back onto the grid. A typical test setup now is purely dissipative. You have a resistive load bank that just burns up the power during the braking to allow that power to get back to be dissipated from the motor when it's in braking. When you're driving it, it's driving it purely from a DC source, and and you also would need an external diodes, high voltage, high current diode, to protect your DC source from energy being fed back to it. So you need none of that would be required for the 62,000D bidirectional DC supplies. Another application is the LV123 and LV148. Um, there's so much information on this product type of testing. I didn't have enough time to cover it here, but if you have any questions about LV123 and LV148 testing, we are building that into our software to make it easy for you to produce and create those tests, and they are defined based on the actual standards. So we'll be able to share that information with you, go through it in more detail. So if you have any questions regarding that, please let us know. Again, our 62180D, because of the high voltage range of this unit, 100 volt, 600 volt, 1200 volt, 1800 volt versions, we can cover all the high voltage requirements of the safety and component testing for high voltage vehicles. Renewable energy. When you're talking about renewable energy, more and more renewable energy sources are including some type of energy storage with it. The reason for that, of course, is a typical solar array system or wind generator will have some erratic operation. It's not a nice continuous uh, conversion of power and output of power back to the grid. So by having energy storage incorporated with it, it gives you a more stable type of energy coming from your renewable energy system. And that's controlled through a PCS, which is basically a power conversion or power control system. And with that, we can use the 62,000D products to simulate the battery used in your ESS. It's perfect because it can work to be a charging battery, a programmable charging battery when the energy is either being fed from the grid or from the renewable energy source back through the controller and charging the actual batteries. It can also take the battery from our source in source mode and use it to output to the PV inverter, which is then converts it to AC and puts it back out onto the grid. So perfect device for this. Again, 3U package, greater than 1.5 millisecond transition time for fast response testing of this controller, and also gives you that great uh, efficiency, which which will allow you to get down to that small package size. So again, 1.5 millisecond transition times when doing this product testing for transient response. So here's another view of it. I really covered this. This is kind of a duplicate slide. Not going to go into a lot of detail, but just want to highlight that while you're using our 62,000D to simulate your batteries for your energy storage system with your power control and power conversion, you can also use our 61800 regenerative grid simulators. They also operate in all four quadrants. They're regenerative. Whatever power is fed to them from your PCS inverter will then go out to the grid at greater than 80% efficiency. We also have software available for this. Our optional soft panel is a LabVIEW standalone executable software package. It operates as a general user interface for our device. And here is one of the modes of operation, which is fixed mode. Here you can either set it as a load, set it as a source, and you can have it switch back and forth between the two. And it gives you a great graphical display of the voltage, current, and power. It also gives you a display of what it's operating as, a source or a load. It'll even give you a graphical display of the direction of current flow through the device from the UUT, from the grid to the UUT through the source, or when it's acting as a load, it'll show it in the opposite direction. So you have voltage, current, power settings here. You can do also a graphical capture of the voltage and current and power, and you can do that at different points, data points, or the width of the capture, as well as the sample rate. In addition to being able to do a fixed mode, we also have programmable sequences. We refer to that as list mode operation. We can do up to 100 sequence. Each sequence can have a time from 5 milliseconds all the way up to 15,000 seconds. And you can do that with voltage and current settings as your source, and you can do it with current and load settings for operating as a load. So also you have the ability to set the slew rate for the device, rising and falling edge when it's transitioning from one sequence to the other. So when the unit's operating as a load, the voltage will be read here. You'll read the current and the power as a negative current and a negative power. and it'll also chart as it's changing. You can have each sequence in a different mode of operation. So you could have one sequence operating as a load, and the very next sequence, the unit could switch and operate as a source if your device under test is bidirectional. Another way to do that is with what we call step mode. Here you can create ramps, ramps as low as 5 milliseconds or as out to multiple seconds. And you have a start and end voltage. You can inject it to the unit while the unit's operating at a fixed setting, or you can trigger it without having the output status on. It will trigger and run the ramp only. Battery simulation. This is the one that everybody's been looking forward to. The battery simulation of the 62000D is really very well done by our R&D group. So thank them for this. The product itself will allow you to do various ways of simulating a battery. You can set the 100% state of charge down to 0% state of charge. It gives you the voltage settings for 100% state of charge and 0% state of charge. It also gives you the ability to test capacity ampere hour testing. You can set the DCR resistance, and you can also do tests for open circuit voltage versus capacity. This is because not all batteries create linearly discharging and charging. There's various load discharge and charge profiles for different battery types, whether it's lithium or lead acid or any other type of battery. We have the ability to import that data through an Excel or CSV file to create that actual curve, and our unit will operate based on your discharge curve and your charge curve for that particular battery that you want to simulate. We can do measurements for voltage, current, ampere hour, energy, and kilowatt hours, open circuit voltage, DC resistance, and your state of charge as well. So any questions you have regarding this, please feel free to ask. We'll love to show you how this works. Get in touch with our salespeople in your local area. Give us a call directly. At the end of this presentation, I'll give you all of my contact information as well, and we'd be more than happy to answer any questions and also do a demonstration of the product through a live web demonstration for you if you like. LV123, LV148, we talked about this earlier. There's so many different tests for LV148 and LV123. There's also testing for LV124. We might be able to help you with some of those tests as well. So reach out to our group and we'll happily answer any questions regarding that. We have a number of tests predefined in our software, and we can help you with any of those tests as well as describe and define how this unit will work well for you in any of those test routines. So thank you all very much for joining us. This was a little shorter than my typical ones. I think I got through this a little quicker today. So we appreciate it. I'm going to stay on for a while and answer some questions, but please reach out to us, either our local sales teams that are out there in the field. Reach out to us through sales@chromausa.com. We'll get you connected with our sales group. Also, my email address is larrys@chromausa.com. You can reach us on our website, chromausa.com. If you'd like a copy of the presentation or any information that we've shared, we'll make that available to you as well. So thank you, stay safe, and look forward to when this COVID is over, and hope that all of you are safe and protected and doing very well. Thank you.